Outside getting some firewood and stuff done before cooking, and I just had to share with you how beautiful it is. Sun's out and there's like little snowflakes falling. Looks like glitter. It's so pretty. Sun's finally out. Makes you feel human again. There's the moon. Yeah, that's the moon. And it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's the moon. All right, so I've already got the wood stove loaded. I just started my wood stove fires with a torch, so that's what we're doing right now. We gotta get this thing ripping, so that way we can get cooking. There's a million ways to start a wood stove fire. Lots of people create little kindling fires and do it that way. I don't have time for that, so this is how I start my fires. You watching? Every wood stove is different, so yours is going to be different than ours. So now that it's going, I thought I'd just kind of poke my phone in here so you can kind of see how I make my fires. I do wood on the bottom, wood in the middle, wood on top with kindling kind of shoved right in the middle of it. And you can see it's going in there now. It's just a little smoky in there, but it'll go. We'll have a rager shortly. She's ripping now. So as you can see, I had about 8 pieces of wood in here, and it's pretty well burned up already. We are almost at 350 degrees up top. I've got my Dutch oven up here getting warmed up. You want to try and get that on the stove as quick as possible to get those hot. I use this little thermo gun. It works great. You can point it right at where you want to be. As you can see, we're not quite at 350 degrees yet. We're getting close. But you need about 350 degrees to boil water and get the meat to actually brown in a Dutch oven, from what I've found. You can mess around, and these things get so hot. So if you're cooking on a wood stove, get ready to get hot. Okay, so I'm gonna add some more wood in here now. It's been about 45 minutes. I guess more like 40. And we need some more wood already. So another thing, you wanna get some fire gloves. These things are great. You can get them pretty much anywhere. As you can tell by what I'm wearing, the temperature in the cabin has already gone up. It was 65 in here when I started this fire, and in 40 minutes it's already up to 72, so it's gonna get warm, people. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my moose meat in now. I use 2 pounds of moose meat. Just because this is moose chili doesn't mean you can't make this with burger. You can make this with beef, you can make it with venison, you can make it with elk, or whatever you have. This is a great chili recipe. Quick and easy, you'll see. So there's 1 pound, I hear it sizzling. We'll get this other pound in and get it browning. So first step is to brown our burger meat, whatever you have, whether you're using moose or venison or beef, whatever you got. And with moose is really lean and there's not a lot of fat. So you're gonna wanna put a little bit of oil in the bottom of your pan, which I forgot to do, so I'm gonna go grab the oil real quick. You don't need a lot, just a little bit for the bottom of the pan. If you're using beef or if your moose meat is cut with beef fat, which a lot of people do up here, I actually have some that's cut with beef fat, but this is not cut with anything. It's just straight moose meat. So now that the meat is kind of mashed up in there, I'm going to put my lid back on so that it helps it brown a little bit quicker. Now that my meat is browned, we're going to go ahead and add all of our beans and our cheater chili. So I've got a can of pinto beans. I'm just going to dump this guy in. Get everything out of there. And I've got dark red kidney beans. Dump those in. I use 3 cans of Nally Original Chili con Carne with beans. I call it cheater chili. Have I made chili with normal pasta sauce? I've made chili 1,000 ways. This is what I call cheater chili. It's what I have. That's the thing about trying to live as self-sufficiently as possible. That's a really hard thing to do. You're not always going to have fresh tomatoes from your garden, fresh beans. I mean, very rarely are you going to have all that unless you've been homesteading and canning and doing all of that for years and years and years and years and years, which we have not been. I had a garden last year and pretty much everything died. So, which I'll go into that later. So anyway, 3 cans of cheater chili, can of kidney beans, and a can of pinto beans. We'll get that added in. I'm going to shut my stove down because it is hot, hot, hot. And now that everything is in here, it can just kind of slow cook in here. So I'm going to get everything stirred up real quick. Woo, the stove is hot. It is. So when I last checked in, what was that? Like 10 minutes ago, it was 72. It's already 79 in here. I'm about ready to lose this hat. So we have a big stove and a really small cabin, so that doesn't help the situation either. All right, I'm gonna turn this wood stove down. I'll be back to show you what that looks like. I guess I should explain. When I say turn my stove down, you have a dampener in the front of your stove. Most stoves like this are in the front. You'll have a dampener somewhere. So right now it's on full open, so that's allowing as much airflow into this wood stove as possible to create as much flame and get it hot. So now that this wood stove is piping hot, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close this all the way down, and it'll take a minute, but you'll see the flame is gonna start to kind of fizzle out and come down. So what that's gonna do is it just kind of slows the fire down to where the stove is not getting too much hotter. It just retains its heat, which this thing is super hot. Like standing right here next to it, my leg is on fire. Like those, back in the day, those women that did nothing but cook on a wood stove, man, these things get so hot. And our little tiny cabin, like it's already 80 degrees. It's been like a minute and it's already 81. So it's super hot in a small space. Like cooking on a wood stove in the summertime, you're definitely not going to want to do it. You know, when I remember when we first moved up here, I'm like, we're just going to cook on the wood stove forever, like, right? I mean, unless you want to sweat to death, sure. But these things get so hot. Anyways, you can see that flame is kind of sucking down. And I'll show you what our chili looks like here. Okay, so this is what our chili looks like now. Now I'm going to add my seasonings in now that we have all the beans and everything in there. So I add some cayenne pepper. I don't add a ton of cayenne pepper, and I don't have like a measurement for you. I just kind of go with what looks right. So that's what I do for my cayenne pepper. I'm going to stir that in real quick. Okay, just stir that guy in. This spoon's amazing, by the way. It's like a half spoon, half spatula. Works great for cooking on the wood stove. Because sometimes it gets a little hot on the bottom and stuff kind of gets stuck on the bottom of your Dutch oven. Okay, now we're gonna grab our chili powder. I had to move to this side because it was too hot in front of the glass. It was burning my legs. Okay, I put a ton of chili powder in here. I just put a bunch in there. I don't have a measurement, I'm sorry. Just go. Just go with it. Stir it up. You can kind of smell it. Some people like their chili a little bit spicier. I don't really like my chili that spicy, so I don't put a ton of spicy stuff in. Just enough until it smells right to me. Which I think it needs a little bit more than that now that it's stirred up. We'll add a little bit more. Okay, I'll stir that up. And there we go. We're gonna let this simmer for basically 2 hours on this wood stove, is what I do. You can let it simmer for longer than that. Wouldn't hurt it, but that's how long I do it for. All right. So our lid is on. Our wood stove is calming down a little. Still got more flame than I'd like in there, but whatever, it's fine. It'll help heat everything up that's in there. And basically now I'll just stir it every once in a while. The wood stove, this wood stove will stay hot for like 6 hours, so no stress. Even if my fire does go out, it'll be fine. I'm gonna go start on our sourdough bread bowls. Woo! Okay guys, we're gonna start our sourdough bread bowls. I'm gonna do a fun little quiz here for you. I don't think you can see it, but I want everyone to take a guess at what the temperature is in the cabin. I started my fire an hour and a half ago. It was 65 degrees in here when I started the fire. Take a guess. Everybody in the comments, do it. Do it now. Okay, I'll let you know in a second. Anyway, so I'm making these sourdough bread bowls. They're ridiculously easy. All they take is sourdough starter, baking powder, baking soda, sugar, shortening, and salt. And water, I think. No, not even water, just that. So it's super, super simple. And I am using this book right here. It's called Alaskan Sourdough Cooking. It is written, Recipes for the Last Frontier. Who is it written by? I don't even know. I'll look, but it's an amazing book. Super easy recipes in here. If you're new to sourdough, I highly recommend it. This has got awesome recipes, and these sourdough bread bowls are literally to die for with this chili. Seriously, it makes everything the best. Okay, let's get into it. So, first of all, I'll show you the recipe at the end. That way you guys have it. I half the recipe out because I don't like using 1.5 cups of my starter. It's way too hard to keep up with that. So I have halved the recipe so that way I only have to use 3/4 cup of my sourdough starter and not use all of it. So first we're going to start with our flour, and we'll get that added to our bowl here. Okay, so our recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour. I am halving the recipe, so we're doing 3/4 cup of flour, which all I have is 1/4, so we just do it 3 times. And you want to kind of put it around the bowl to make a well in the center. I'll show you that when I'm done here. Okay, there's 2 and 3. So there's our 3. It also says to use sifted flour. I don't have a flour sifter, so I just kind of shake it out. Whatever, it's fine. Works fine. You don't need a sifter. Okay. You're going to be putting a lot of starter and a lot of shortening in here, so make a big well in your bowl. Something else I forgot to mention, if you're using anything with sourdough, make sure it is unbleached flour, because if you use bleached flour, it does not work. It kills your culture, so just think about what it does to your gut too. Don't forget to check on your chili, like I just did. Let's see how it's doing. Oh yeah. Look at that. All right, let's stir this thing up. See what we get here. Justin came home and he's got Dawson out in the truck, so hopefully Dawson will take a nap today. It's nice. Now I can just focus on what I'm doing with you guys. It's coming along good. So who guessed the temperature? Did you guys figure it out yet? Well, if you haven't guessed, go guess. Started the fire. Now it's been an hour and 40 minutes. It's currently 2 degrees outside with like 100% humidity. What do you think the temperature is in here? Okay, I'll let that guy go. And we're back. Okay, the temperature in the cabin is currently 92 degrees. It's hot. And I've had the door open like 5 times. So it's really hot in here. Anyway, on to the next step. Next up, we need to add our shortening. So we actually technically need to add our sourdough starter to the bowl first, but we need to melt our shortening. Nice thing about the wood stove already going, we'll just put some shortening in a pan, throw it on the wood stove. By the time we get our sourdough starter added, it'll be melted. Okay, so the recipe calls for 1/4 cup of melted shortening. So we're just gonna do 1/8 of a cup and go from there. My shortening is in a mason jar because I have a giant Crisco can in our trailer. Oh man, this thing's hot because it's 92 degrees in here. It's all melty. All right, so we'll get our 1/8 of a cup here. Stuff off the edge. Okay. Deal with that in a minute. Okay, so now we have our little 1/8 of a cup of shortening. We'll get it out into this pan. Maybe. It's not that liquid for me yet. Okay. There's our 1/8 of a cup. We'll throw it on the wood stove. Go ahead and add our sourdough starter. So again, it's the same as the flour. It calls for 1.5 cups. So we'll do our 3/4 of a cup again with our sourdough starter. Just use that. Where is my little handy dandy thing at? My son likes to use what I need for this at the moment. I need to go find it. I think it's in his crib. And we're back. I found it. It was in his crib. These little rubber spatulas are super good if your kids are a little bit older and teething and don't want any other teething toys. And just want what you have, what you use all the time. Works great. You just have to find it when they have it. Okay, so we'll get all this out of here. I want to try and get everything out of this cup that I can. Okay, and again, we needed 3/4, and this is only 1/4, so we'll do this 3 times. Like I said, it's a lot of starter, and this is half of the recipe. That's why I used all of my starter the second time I made them. So this is the starter I made myself, by the way, and I have made sourdough pancakes with it. And I've also made sourdough bread bowls with it, and it's really, really good. It's awesome. It tastes fantastic. So that's pretty cool. I have not made bread with it yet, but I plan on doing a video for that too. So we'll see how a loaf of bread comes out with the sourdough starter that I made. Okay, one more. All right, perfect. Still got starter in there. Thank goodness. Still a lot of starter. So you really gotta, if you're gonna make these, make sure you feed your starter, like overfeed it a couple days beforehand so you have a lot on hand. I thought about starting another one, so I had 2 on hand, but I just feel like I'd be wasting flour at that point, so I just feed it extra. Okay. Woofda! It is so hot in here. I need to go open the door again. I'm sweating. Okay. So that worked out good. By the time I went to go open the door, my shortening is melted. It's like just translucent fluid at this point. You can see it in there, kind of, probably. Okay. So we'll add this right into our well, right on top of your sourdough starter that you put right in the middle. I'll show you once I pour it here. So there's my sourdough starter, and I just poured the melted shortening right over the top of it inside of my flour well. Oh, now we'll move on to our next steps, which is a tablespoon of sugar, tablespoon of sugar, just dump it right in the middle. Whatever, it doesn't matter at this point, you're just adding everything else. Now I need a teaspoon and a half of baking powder. Typically it calls for 3. I'm just doing, again, half, so it's a teaspoon and a half of our baking powder. So 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Again, I just have a 1/4 teaspoon, do it 3 times. Works fine. 2 and 3 teaspoons of baking soda. And then we need half a teaspoon of salt. I just use regular salt. I don't use anything fancy. You could probably use sea salt, it might be better, but I don't know. These are so good by themselves, I just don't even care. Okay, there we go. So then you'll mix lightly. I use these sourdough whisks. If you've never used one of these, you should get one. They're not that expensive. They'll change your life, honestly. If you're making any sort of bread or cookie dough, any kind of dough, flour tortillas, it totally will make your flour tortillas 100 times better. I'm not even kidding. These are awesome. So, I'm making a mess already. So you're mixing it lightly, and then you're gonna have to turn it onto a floured surface and knead it for a little bit, which is fine. I'll kind of show you what it looks like while I'm doing this here. Definitely a lot of flour in there, and I need to mix it a little bit more. So don't freak out if you're like, oh my God, there's way too much flour. There's not. Just keep mixing away a little bit at a time. And you can take that and kind of mush it in like that. Almost knead it with your dough whisk is kind of what I'm doing. But I can't do it without holding onto my bowl. So sorry, I'm going to put this down. Okay, so we'll just keep mixing for a few minutes here until it all kind of combines enough that you can grab it with your hands. And then if you do use these, you're gonna have to pull some of this out of here with your hands. Gonna have to get used to using your hands if you cook with me. I'm always using my hands, always doing things the hard way without mixers and everything else because, well, we don't have a lot of power, so. And I like to use my hands. I feel like it's more like cooking with love than cooking with machinery or equipment, whatever. Tooling, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so it's probably as good as I'm going to get it with this dough whisk. I'm going to have to get the rest of it mixed together by hand here at this point. So I'll show you what it looks like. It's pretty powdery, but you'll see once I start using my hands, it's all going to come together. So this is what it looks like right now. It's not a whole lot different, but you're going to kind of just cup it to the edge of your bowl. Just cup as much of it as you can and kind of squish it onto the side of your bowl is what I do. You know, keep kind of doing that until you can grab it with your hands. And then we'll get it onto our floured surface. There you go. So you can kind of see it's just kind of smushed in there, and then you'll be able to grab it with your hands. There's a little bit of flour left over. Whatever, don't stress about it. Okay, so I just sprinkled some flour on and spread it out in my hands. We'll pull this guy out of the bowl now. Okay, I'm gonna have to stand up, so you have to look at my belly, I'm sorry. Okay, so you'll see it's just kind of crumbling apart. So just start kneading it, just start working it. If you have a bunch of extra stuff like this, just get it out of the way, it's okay. It will come together, I promise. And just keep kneading it. So you can see I kind of fold it and then push it with my hands is what I'm doing. Fold it, push with your hands, and just keep doing it. If you run out of flour on the bottom side, it's okay. Obviously, there's a lot of extra on here, so whatever. Sometimes it'll soak it up better than others. I think I was moving a little bit too slow while filming, which is fine. Typically, I don't have quite this much excess, but That's okay. It's all worth it so you guys can do this, right? So you're just going to keep kneading it until it kind of more feels like dough. It's going to start getting softer, more malleable, start coming together better, stop like flaking apart. And you're just going to keep on going. And you'll notice I didn't add any flour to the table or anything. It doesn't need it. It's fine. It's not sticking. It's all good. Granted, I do have a wood countertop. Maybe yours isn't that way, but I don't think you'll have a problem working with any other kind of countertop. Maybe marble, because I've never worked on that, but I don't think people with marble countertops are watching me anyway. Okay. So it's coming together more. Just gonna keep going though, because I know that it's not quite ready there. It's starting to get there though. You'll feel it start to mush more in your hands and quit like fighting you so much. The first time I did this, I kneaded this thing for like an hour because I didn't really know how much like bread dough it was supposed to be, because that's all it says in the book, is to knead it until it's like bread dough. Now, to me, this isn't bread dough, but it comes out as sourdough bread bowls are really good. So we're almost there. It's getting smoother around the edges. It's getting more elastic in my hands. I'm not getting anything coming off of it now. And it's starting to look right and feel right. Okay, so it's looking really good. So now I kind of flatten it out more, not flatten it totally, but get it more into like a oval shape, kind of like a little mini cake, where it's kind of even on all the sides. We don't have like a big lump in the middle, big hump in the middle. Kind of cup it and just make it so it's equal around, so that way when you divide it, your little pieces come out more even, so you don't have like a giant piece and a little tiny piece. Okay, it looks really good. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like too. So this is what it looks like. You can see there's like little bubbles in it, but there's not big chunks of flour. It's all pretty much the same like texture all the way around. It's kind of like a English muffin. Kind of looks like a big English muffin. So that's what you want. Okay? So now we need to divide it. They say into baseball size balls, but I just divide it in eighths because it's what works. I'll show you. So all these crumbs and stuff that were left over, get them out of your table before you start dividing and rolling this out, because those little balls will get into there and make a big mess for you. You don't want the little flour balls, so just get rid of that stuff. Okay, so now we'll get a knife. And we'll divide this guy out. You just kind of want to make it even, is what I've found. As even as you can. Okay, so I just cut it into like a little pizza. And just start pulling my little pizza pieces apart. Now for me, I've made these enough to know that like this one is really big, and I could probably cut it down and make an extra one out of it, which I'm gonna do because I love these things. So I'm just gonna cut this one in half. Some are gonna be bigger, some are gonna be smaller, and that's okay because I like having a variety and they come out really good. Now let's roll them out. And you roll them out just like you would pie, like a pie crust. Get these out the way. It doesn't require a lot of flour on your table either. This stuff is not very sticky. So just sprinkle a little bit of flour on your rolling pin and just, so let's go ahead and get this guy rolled out now. And at this point, you can probably start your oven as well and get that thing cooking. And I'm gonna get my muffin tin out too, because these are cooked in a muffin tin. So it's about how it's gonna get rolled out. I'll show you how that works out in the muffin tin. And you can kind of mess with how thick you want them. I like mine thicker. I think they come out better, so. All right, I'll show you that. Grab that stuff. So these cook at 375. If you have a Camp Chef oven like I do, this is what you're looking at and what you're dealing with. So if I can make these in this outdoor camp oven, that's propane, you can definitely make them in your oven at home. Promise. Well, I got mine rolled out. I've got our muffin tin. If you want to grease it, go for it. I don't, because my muffin tin is brand new and they just slide right out of here. So do what you want. So you'll just slide it right in here and just start kind of pushing the edges up to the side of the muffin tin. Just to create a little bowl. That's all you're doing. Just creating a little bread bowl. So there you go. Just goes right in the muffin tin. So I'm gonna roll the rest of these out. I'll show you when they're all done. Okay, so I got them rolled out. None of them are the same thickness. Who cares? They're all gonna come out delicious. So don't stress. Like, these are super no stress. They come out good if they're thin. They come out good if they're thick. They're just delicious. Okay, so my oven's at, like, what are we at? Like almost 400 something. It's fine. I'll open it up and it'll cool off in here. Okay, let's put these guys in here in my little tiny mini oven. Look at this little thing. This little tiny cute little thing. It's adorable. Yeah, I can only make 6 at a time, so. Anyway. Okay, they're in there. So these only cook for 15 minutes, which is awesome. So they'll be done in 15 minutes. I'll pull them out and show you what they look like. I'm going to roll the rest of them out. You can see I saved all the big ones. For the second batch. That way they can cook a little bit longer. And I did all the smaller ones in this one. So, show you what that looks like. Also, just a quick note, when you are rolling these out, you'll probably need to add some flour. I also smash them first and then roll them out. But you'll probably have to add some flour to your rolling pin as you go along. If it starts sticking, just throw some more flour on your rolling pin. You'll be good. I forgot to say earlier, whoever gets the temperature right, kudos to you. Good job. You get bragging rights because I ain't got nothing to give you. I'm sorry. I wish I had something to give you, but I don't. But good job. If you guessed 91, good job. Thanks for playing my game. Appreciate you. Just an update on the chili. I have been stirring it in between rolling everything out for the sourdough bread bowls. This is how it's looking. I did add some more chili sauce, or chili powder, sorry. Because I wanted to, so. Something else, you know, just start using your own brain when it comes to cooking. You can figure a lot of this stuff out on your own. I just messed around. I use what I have. That's kind of was my point about the self-sufficiency and self-reliant living, you know, just use what you have. I mean, ideally, you'd put tomatoes in here and fresh, basil and, fresh herbs and stuff, but I don't have that right now, so I need to go to the grocery store. Surprise, surprise. But this is what I have, and this is what I'm making. And guess what? It still tastes bomb. Okay. My timer just went off. Let's get these bad boys out of the oven. Oh, man. These look so good. Oh, yeah. Delicious. Okay, so these came out a little bit crispier than I like. I think my oven got a little bit hotter than I like to, so. But they're about golden brown. They're still going to be delicious. They're just a little thin, and I probably could have gone like 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes. So if they're thinner, just watch them. You'll probably be fine with just 10 minutes. We're going to see how these ones come out. They're a little bit thicker. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to them so I can kind of show you how I like them a little bit better than this. Also, don't forget to refeed your starter, your sourdough starter. I always feed mine with half a cup of unbleached all-purpose flour and however much water looks right to me. I think most recipes say like a quarter cup if you're just starting out with sourdough starter, but that's what I do to feed mine. So we'll add our half cup of flour real quick. So that is a rule with starter. Anytime you use it, you need to feed it. Right. At least to start out with. And then again, use your little dough whisk. I have 2 of them. This little one's perfect for sourdough. You can use a fork too, but this is better. And that's what your sourdough should look like. And it's all mixed up. So it's kind of like dough. Okay, so these ones came out more of how I like them. Where they're just barely golden brown and a little bit thicker. They're amazing. So these ones came out a little crispy, but that's what they look like when they're done. Amazing. Can't wait to eat them. All right, guys. Thanks for coming along while we made moose chili and sourdough bread bowls. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time, catch you on the flip side.